Welcome to Signs Unscripted. I'm Robin Donovan, Signs of the Times editor-in-chief, and with me today is...
AJ Titus. I'm the brand president for Signarama, world's largest sign and graphics franchise.
And where are you located, AJ?
We're located in sunny, well, maybe not so sunny today, but usually sunny West Palm Beach, Florida.
Very cool. And so you are somewhat new to your role. Tell us about that.
I am. So I was promoted to president of the brand about a year ago. So I've been in the role not too long, but been in the sign industry and Signarama pretty much my entire life because my dad started the business 33 years ago. It was one sign shop in Long Island, New York, and now we've built up to be the largest sign franchise in the world.
And your grandfather, I think, was also in the business?
He was. So I actually had both my grandparents. So my grandfather, Roy, my dad's dad, was a co-founder with my father. In the 80s, he also started the franchise Minuteman Press. And my grandfather, on my mom's side, my mom's dad, he actually was the general manager here at Signarama for over 20 years as well. So it's definitely a family business, to say the least.
Like so many sign companies, right? There's so many family businesses out there. So Signarama obviously is one of the bigger franchises out there. What do you think, when you kind of think about coming into this as a new role and looking at yourself as a new leader for this company, what are some things that you immediately had to learn?
Well, it's interesting because I grew up in the industry. I actually worked for one of our franchisees locally, so I've made signs, I've sold signs. But leading a franchise business is a little different than running a sign business. But you're still a sign business too, so it's good to have that background. But it's leading people, it's driving results, and it's really casting a vision and a mission statement that you can abide by and grow by. When we're made up of many, so we deal with people every single day because we're in the people business, and so our job is to really help our franchisees who own sign companies make a lot of money. So that's really my goal from the corporate office. So it's a different mindset than working in a business or working, even in a franchise business. You're kind of leading a large group of people.
Yeah, definitely. And so when you think about that large group of people, do you have a sense for what some of their top concerns are? So when you think about different franchisees and what they're concerned with, like what's keeping them up at night, do you think?
Well, it's I think if you're not in the business field, you're still going to have a problem with employees. So the number one thing I hear all the time is I can't find good people, or I need to find people who have sign experience. That's a cop-out answer kind of, because I feel like if I asked anyone in any industry, what's their concern, it's going to be training and staffing and things of that nature. But that definitely is something here. The sign industry I like to call one of the best kept secrets. So the people who are millennials, who like to be creative, who like to help people, the sign industry is for them. What better industry is more creative, and you're selling someone a product that they need to grow their business. So that would be number one from what I was seeing. And then another thing would be more competition. You're seeing some online people pop up, even though they're not as much of an issue, I believe, in our industry. But you're seeing actually more and more quick turn, small printing companies get into the sign industry, and they're joining the party that we've known for a really long time has been the best party around. So,
for sure.
It's a good and bad thing in the sense of, we've been doing this 33 years, and our name and our values are what we do, and so we're not making any adjustments or changes from that perspective. But the market's getting a little crowded in some areas.
Yeah, and when I see things like collision repair shops doing automotive wraps and different types of vehicle graphics, I think, oh man, it's kind of coming from some directions that we didn't expect. I think even for me, I started covering the sign industry maybe almost 9 years ago, and that kind of wasn't as much of a thing. I mean, that would have been very unusual and kind of rare. So, yeah, I think it's also one thing that you're talking about, leadership as a millennial. we've really talked about millennials as employees so much, and you are obviously a younger leader at your company. What do you think, or how do you see generational differences factoring into your everyday life?
It's a great question, and I think millennials is kind of like that I don't know, that buzzword or that buzz phrase. People, how do you handle millennials? How do you sell to millennials? How do you manage millennials? Everything like that. But as a millennial and leading the company, I'm one of the youngest people in the room always. It doesn't matter if I'm at a networking function or if I'm at an industry show or anything. I'm usually one of the youngest, if not the youngest person in the room. And it doesn't bother me, because I think that my generation and I bring different things to the table that the older generation doesn't have. I'm going to sit around a room and I'm going to get different experiences and different knowledge from people, and the same thing is true for you. So if you value yourself the way you value other people's experiences, then you should be fine. Mm-hmm. But I can't be a good millennial without telling you about technology and how we need to advance technology at the company.
I'm with you.
Those are things that we're doing here. Is we're really investing our time and effort into, making sure that we have a good point of sale system, a good website. Digital marketing is important. Digital signage as a product. We're really looking forward to those things.
Yeah, I agree. And I think technology is one place where there's still a lot of opportunity for sign companies to invest. I mean, when I talk to the Rolands and the Mamakis of the world and different manufacturers, they will always talk about, they want to sell new printers, but I don't want to speak for them, but I believe that they're also still targeting sign companies that aren't yet doing, for example, digital printing. And then, of course, there's the business infrastructure type of technology. So, I think what's interesting about this conversation, too, is that we've spent a lot of time talking about generational differences. And like you say, it's become this kind of trope. And, to mention millennials is difficult to manage and this and that. But the truth is that just mathematically, millennials are now older, right? I'm 34. Mm-hmm. I'm a millennial, probably like the oldest millennial. So it's kind of interesting. Like there's also another generation, like Gen Z, that we're not talking about as much. And I think it'll be interesting to see their take on technology as well. And I don't know if you've had any experience with that. I think they're really just coming into the workforce. But what do you anticipate as you like mature into your role? Because pretty soon, like millennials, that's not the new, the new thing anymore, right? It's just something that we've gotten very used to talking about.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I actually led a conversation at the International Sign Association earlier this year about millennials. And one person in the crowd asked me, what if I don't want to deal with millennials? And my response to him was, too bad. You're right. Going to have to either sell your business or, you're going to have to learn to deal with them. And so those are things that, the math doesn't lie. And then on top of that, it's not even the millennials you have to even talk about now. It's the next gen that you need to worry about.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, I think millennials just are driven by different things. They just like your grandparents are driven by different things than your parents, and that's always been the case. It's just different for millennials, where they're looking at more of the experience, and if they are making a difference in someone's life or in someone's community, that's more important than finances.
Exactly.
In a lot of ways, and so that's really where it comes down to, is the motivation.
Yeah, and I've heard that it's kind of a shift away from seeing your employer as a point of stability to seeing yourself almost as a business unto itself, like in a person, and saying, what skills can I gain from this company? And then what I've heard about the next generation is they're kind of growing up as entrepreneurs, selling each other video game characters and things on YouTube and all this stuff. And that they're going to be even more kind of independent minded and saying, like, what am I going to do working in partnership with an organization? So it's kind of interesting to think about, today's 15-year-olds and what they're going to want from an employer in 3 to 5 years.
No, it's a really great point, and there's a lot of people who would say that like right now is the hardest time to open up a business. It's the exact opposite. It's one of the best times in human history to open up a business with so many different technologies out there. Someone can start a YouTube channel and make money. Someone has a YouTube channel talking about the sign industry and makes money doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deal. And the same case is true for the next generation. There's going to be more ways to make money and more ways to start a business. And it's almost true with the sign industry but I would argue, someone who buys a digital printer doesn't necessarily know what they're doing with the digital printer.
So true.
To take that to the next letter. So, you can't just buy one and say I'm a sign company. There's so many other things that goes into it. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, AJ, thank you. This has been really enlightening. And thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate the time and always willing to talk about the sign industry.